Hello students, in our previous classes we have discussed about the circuit breakers. Okay, the subject was the power system protection and the topic was circuit breakers, and we have discussed what are the COs and what is the importance of the circuit breaker and what are the different types of circuit breakers. So, and why there is a need for the circuit breaker. Okay. So, and also in our previous class, we have discussed about the 8 circuit breakers, and but we have not discussed about the advantages of the 8 circuit breakers. So, we will continue with this in this video. So, the advantage of the 8 circuit breaker is risk of fire is eliminated, and arcing products are completely removed, and fast increase in dielectric strength. So normally it is having a good dielectric strength. So, and hence the contact gap can be less, resulting in the small device. So these are the, and also some more advantages are arcing time is very small and arcing energy is also small, suitable for frequent operations, independent to interrupting current. So when you come with the disadvantages of this air blast circuit breaker is, so the arc extinguishing properties of air are inferior. So when that means when you compare it to other types of circuit breakers, it is inferior. So it is sensitive to variations of restriking voltage, and air blast compressor is required. So this is the advantage. So advantages are risk of fire is eliminated, and arcing products are completely removed, and faster increase in dielectric strength, and so we can use this small device. And also the arc time is small and arc energy is also small, suitable for frequent operations. So in some cases there are very frequent operations, so it is suitable for the frequent operations. So, and also it is independent of the interrupting current. When you come to the disadvantages, so we need the air blast compressor, and it is sensitive for the restriking voltage, and the extinguishing properties are inferior. So now we will see what is the oil circuit breaker. So in circuit breaker means we are frequently changing the medium. So here this arc we have arranged in such a way that the process of the arc will happen in the oil medium. So normally we know that whenever the arc is struck, so much amount of heat is produced, energy is released, heat is produced. So naturally what happens, so if the medium is oil, it will absorb that heat, and it will evaporate. So it will evaporate means it will release some gas, so generally hydrogen gas. So here the insulating oil is the arc. Insulating oil is a arc extinguished medium. So here the medium is the oil, and converse contacts are in oil. So generally there will be one movable contact and one fixed contact in generally for the circuit breakers. So we have already discussed what is the necessity, why we have to extinguish this arc as early as possible, as soon as possible, means there is a to avoid the loss. So here the medium the medium will be oil, and it will evaporate, and it will be in the hydrogen gas. So whenever the oil is evaporated, hydrogen gas is released. Okay, oil is evaporated as the hydrogen gas. So here in this diagram we can observe, so these are the contacts, two contacts, and this is the arc, and because of the heat produced by the arc, the oil has got evaporated, and it is evaporated, and the hydrogen gas evaporated as the hydrogen gas, and these are in between this, in that gas bubble. Okay, bubble of oil vapor. So that is hydrogen gas. Okay, so now, so due to the heat, what happened? The oil has evaporated, and the gas bubble has came. That means that is the hydrogen gas bubble. So now the hydrogen gas bubble is surrounding this arc region. So this hydrogen gas have very high thermal conductivity, and so then it cools and deionizes the medium. So which is very, very important. So it not only cools but also it deionizes. So that means again there is no chance for restaking of the arc. Okay. So the gas, and also the other thing is the gas causes the turbulence. Okay. So because of this turbulence, the particles which were responsible for the arc will be moved away, will be thrown away. Okay. So will be thrown away from the arc. Okay. So here there are mainly two types of the oil circuit breakers. One is the bulk oil circuit breaker and low oil circuit breaker. So so we are using the oil means not only for extinguishing the arc, but also for insulation purpose. So in the bulk oil, the majority of the oil will be gone for the insulation, and low oil circulate. So we are only using the oil for extinguishing the arc, and the remaining that insulation part is dealt by some other arrangement. So in the oil circuit breaker, we are having two types of oil circuit breaker. That's first thing is the bulk oil circuit breaker, and second thing is the low oil circuit breaker. So in the bulk oil circuit breaker, so as the name denotes, we are using so much large amount of oil. So again, in the bulk oil circuit breakers, we are having classification, that is a plain brake oil circuit breaker and arc control oil circuit breaker. So one is the plain brakes oil circuit breaker and arc control oil circuit breaker. So in the plain brake oil circuit breaker, the contacts are separated in the oil tank. When the critical, so whenever the critical gap occurs, the contact between the contacts is reached, the arc extinction occurs. So lack of control over this arc is overcome in arc circuit breakers. So generally we'll be not having control over the arc. So that lagging is overcome in this plain brake oil circuit breaker. So the arc control is implementation. So how we are controlling this arc control? So one is self blast and another is force blast. Okay, one is self blast and another is force blast. So we are using some external thing here. So the self blast circuit breaker, how? So if the self blast is occurring, how it is happening as a self blast? That means we are using a insulating chamber. So whenever the gases are released. Okay. So these gases are confined to the chamber. So how the pressure is developed in this chamber means the high pressure is developed in the small chamber. So whenever the oil gets evaporated, the gas are released. So whenever the gas is released in a small chamber, so there is a buildup of pressure. So the high pressure developed in the small chamber will force the oil to go through the arc and extinguish it. Go through the arc and extinguish. So this oil will go through the arc and it will throw the ionizing particles or arc forming particles away. Okay, here you can observe. So that is the oil circuit breaker, and so this is the chamber. So this is the fixed. So normally we will be using fixed and moving contacts. So this gas, the pressure developed due to the gas will force the oil to move between these contacts. That means disturbing the arc. So we are having. So this is the way we are able to control the arc. And there are three types of designs of pressure pots. That is plain explosion pot, and cross jet explosion pot, and self compensated explosion pot. So we are using the pot for the plain self blast plain. Again, in that self blast oil and force blast. So these pots are three types. That is plain explosion pot, cross jet explosion pot, and self compensated explosion pot. So here you can observe this diagram. This is the plain explosion pot. So this is the fixed contact and this is the moving contact. And again, this is the self compensated explosion pot and this is the cross jet explosion pot. So each type will be having different types of advantages. So when coming to the another type, that is the force blast. So here we are going to use a piston cylinder. So in force oil circuit breaker, we are going to use the piston cylinder. So in bulk oil circuit breakers, the oil has two jobs. So why we are using so much of oil in the bulk oil means it is having two jobs. That is, one is to act as a arc extinguisher. Our first criteria is to extinguish the arc. So extinguish medium, and the second thing is to insulate live circuit from the earth. So this oil is doing two tasks here. That is, one to extinguish the oil, and second is to act as an insulation between the circuit from the earth. So here, for arc extinguishing, we are using only a small amount of oil. That is only a 10% of or less. So remaining is used as the insulation. So the majority of oil we are using as the insulation. So but in low circuit oil breakers, so the oil we are only using for the arc extinguishing. So and that insulation is dealt by the porcelain and paper. So what are the advantages? So generally each type will have its own advantages and disadvantages. That oil has excellent cooling property. So naturally when you compare with the air blast, so here oil having a big advantage, that is it is having the excellent cooling property, and it acts as an insulator between live wires and earth. So this is the case. So majority we are using the bulk oil. So it is able to deal with the two tasks parallelly, that is arc extinguishing and also the insulation between the circuit and the air. So what is the disadvantages is that is the oil is inflammable. So it is inflammable, so there is a chance of occurring of hazards. So arcing products cannot escape and remain in the oil. So the arcing products will be in the same oil. So they may be get disturbed. They might have got disturbed, but they cannot disturbed and thrown away due to the force blast and self blast, but they will remain in the same place in the oil. Okay, so that is about the oil circuit breakers. Okay, so here in the oil circuit breakers, the first thing is we are using the oil as the medium. So we are using the oil for the extinguishing of the arc. So whenever the arc is struck, the oil is evaporated and a gas bubble is formed, and most probably the hydrogen is formed. And the hydrogen is a very good having high thermal conductivity, so it absorbs. So that means it immediately cools the arc and also deionizes. And also this gas causes the turbulence. So the gas which was released due to the evaporation done by the arc, so it is doing two tasks, that it is cooling the arc, and also it is deionizing the medium, and also it is causing the turbulence. So parallelly it is doing three tasks, that is it is cooling and it is creating turbulence and also it is deionizing. So in the oil circuit breakers there are two types, that is bulk oil and low oil. So bulk oil means we are using huge amount of oil. So huge amount of oil, but majority of amount of oil is acting as that means 90% of the oil is acting as a insulation between the circuit and the air, and only 10% or less than 10% is acting as the purpose, acting for the actual purpose, that is arc extinguishing. So low oil circuit breakers, here we are using the oil only for the arc extinguishing, and that insulation purpose is done by the porcelain or the paper. So again in the bulk oil, we are having two divisions, that is plain break oil circuit breaker and arc control oil circuit breaker. So we have discussed about the plain circuit breaker oil. So whenever the arc is struck, okay, so this oil is going and it will get evaporated and it will absorb that heat and it will extinguish the arc. But here the advantage is that we are having some control over the arc. So generally we don't have any control over the arc. So lack of controlling over the arc is overcome by this plain oil circuit breaker. So how we are having the control over the arc? That means we are having two ways to have the control over the oil. That is control over the arc. That is self blast and forced blast. A self blast means we are not using any external force here. So self blast, we will be having a chamber. So there are three different types of chambers. So whenever the arc is struck, so automatically the oil evaporates. So and gases are released. So these released gases will build up the pressure. So than the earlier. So Earlier there might have some pressure in that pot or pressure chamber. So the name itself is called as pressure chamber because the pressure is developed because of the release of the gases. So this pressure, what happened? This will force again. This will force the oil. This will force the oil to move between the contacts. That means disturbing the arc. Disturbing the arc. And indirectly, that is extinguishing the arc. So this was the pot or pressure chamber. So moving contacts and fixed contacts. So again, this pot or pressure chamber is of two types, that is plain explosion, cross jet explosion, self-compensated explosion. So this is the plain explosion pot, and this is cross jet, and this is the self-compensated explosion chamber. So in forced blast oil circuit breakers, we are using the piston cylinder. Okay, so in self blast, so in self blast we are not using any piston. So here in the forced blast we are using the piston cylinder. So in bulk oil circuit breakers, oil has two jobs, that is, one is to extinguish the arc and another is to perform the insulation property, that is insulation between the circuit and the earth. So only the small amount of the oil is used for the, that means less than 10% of oil is used for the arc extinguishing, and remaining is met with the insulation purpose. In low oil circuit breaker, the oil only deals with the arc extinction, and that insulation is done by the porcelain and paper. So when you come to the advantages, the main advantage, it is having very good cooling property, and also it is acting as an insulation between the circuit and the earth. So disadvantage is that oil is inflammable and arcing products cannot escape. They are present there only. And again, whenever another turbulence occurred, so again the same arcing products may come nearer to the contacts, and it may cause the destriking. So that is the disadvantage when you compare the another type of circuit breakers. So again, we'll see now what is the sulfur hexachloride or SF6 circuit breaker. So here air blast means we are using air, oil blast means we are using oil, SF6 means we are using the SF6. So we are using the SF6 as the arc extinguished medium. So the sulfur hexachloride gas has one unique property, that is, it is electronegative. That means it attracts free electrons. So whenever there are no electrons, so there is no chance of moving or stuck in the arc. So a high pressure sulfur hexachloride gas flows through the chamber as the circuit strikes. So whenever the arc is struck, so here sometimes we are using the air, and sometimes we are using oil, and sometimes now we are using the SF6, which is called as the sulfur hexafluoride gas, because it is having the property of electronegative in nature. That means which attracts the electrons. So how? So the free electrons producing during the arcing are absorbed by the SF6. So when the arc continues only when there is a movement of the electrons. If these electrons are absorbed by the SF6, that means it cannot further proceed. That means it is extinguished very early, very fastly. So as the arc loses it's conducting electrons. The insulating strength of the surrounding medium is quickly increased. So whenever there are less free electrons, the dielectric strength automatically increases and the arc completely extinguishes. So how it is construction? So here also same, we will be having two contacts, that is moving and fixed, and they are placed in a chamber and the medium is the SF6. So here in this diagram you can observe SF6 circuit breaker. So this is the moving, this is the arc chamber. So SF6 inlet and insulating rods and fixed. This is the fixed and this is the moving. So what is the advantages? So superior arc extinguishing property. So naturally, so it is immediately absorbing the electrons. So first we are air blast, there we are just disturbing, moving the electrons away, or ions. So are the arcing properties away from the arc, arcing things away from the electrons. In the air also similarly we are disturbing due to the turbulence, due to the release of the gases and turbulence created. There also we are just throwing these things which are creating the arc. So away, ions away. So here we are absorbing. So this is absorbing these electrons. It is directly absorbing the things which are creating the arc, which are responsible for the existence of the arc. So that's why, so it is superior when compared to this loss to air blast and oil blast circuit breaker. So it can interrupt large currents as the dielectric strength of SF6 gas is almost 3 times greater than the air. So dielectric strength is also greater when you compare with the air. So here there is no noise. There is no noise. So no exhaust into atmosphere. So what are the disadvantages? So disadvantages are moisture-free operation as the gas filled chamber keeps in the interior dry. So this is the we have to create a moisture-free operation, so which is a little bit harder. So very low maintenance and requires minimum. Okay, this is advantage. So very low maintenance. So here there is no moisture-free. So it is we can keep it, and very low maintenance, suitable for hazardous and hostile conditions like coal mines. So here also we can use. When you come to disadvantages, so sulfur hexafluoride gas is very costly. So now naturally, if the benefit is very big, its cost will be also big. So SF6 has the has to be reconditioned after every operation. So if you want to recondition after every operation, so you cannot use frequently. So it is not suitable for frequent operations. So but air blast is suitable for the frequent operation, and also it is costly. So again we will once see about SF6. So SF6, that is which is called as the sulfur hexafluoride gas. So here the medium is, unlike the air blast, unlike the air in the air blast, unlike the oil in the oil circuit breaker, here the medium is the SF6. So why we are using SF6 means it is electronegative. That means it absorbs the electrons. So since it is absorbing the electrons, so extinguishing is occurring very fastly. So the construction is almost similar, and this is the diagram which is showing that operation of the SF6 circuit breaker. So here also we are having fixed and moving. Here also we are having the chamber, and SF6 is sent into the chamber with force. So advantage means it is having superior extinguishing property, and dielectric strength is 3 times when you compare it with the air. So it is a noise free, and also it is a moisture free, and it requires low maintenance and requires minimum equipment. So low maintenance means automatically we are having less equipment. So suitable for the hazardous operations. So that means, but low maintenance, but it is costly. The gas itself is costly, and it has to be reconditioned every time of the operation. So that means we cannot use it for the frequent operations. So that's all for this day. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.